And New Delhi has signaled that it is continuing to negotiate a trade deal with the US, while President Trump has claimed that India has offered to cut tariffs. And this indicates that both countries, India and the US, they are keeping that door open for a trade deal and ease tensions. While speaking at the Oval Office, Trump highlighted India-US ties, stressing the need for fair trade, citing Harley Davidson, and calling past relations between the two countries one-sided over high tariffs.
Now, we get along with India very well, but India has, you have to understand, for many years, it was a one-sided relationship. Only now, since I came along, and because of the power that we have with tariffs, India was charging us tremendous tariffs, about the highest in the world. They were about the highest in the world, number one. And we, therefore, weren't doing much business with India, but they were doing business with us because we weren't charging them. Foolishly, we weren't charging them. So they would send in massive, everything they made, they'd send it in, pour it into our country. Therefore, it wouldn't be made here, which is a negative. But we would not send in anything because they were charging us 100% tariffs. And, I'll give you an example. Harley Davidson. Harley Davidson couldn't sell into India. There was a 200% tariff on a motorcycle. So what happens? Harley Davidson went to India and built a motorcycle plant. And now they don't have to pay tariffs.
In a social media post on Monday, Trump said that India offered to reduce its tariffs on US goods to zero, but he did not mention when the concession was made. Trump added that it's getting late and India should have made the offer years ago. While the Indian government has not officially responded to Trump's remarks, the country's Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal said both sides continue to engage to reach a trade agreement. We are in dialogue with the US for a bilateral trade agreement. This is what was said by Piyush Goyal, India's Commerce Minister. Now, there are no formal talks currently between the trade negotiators after a US team cancelled their trip to India in August. However, Goyal's comment suggests that both nations are keeping that informal communication channel open. India was the first to jump into discussions for a trade deal and had made several concessions early on in the negotiations that included reduced tariffs on industrial goods such as auto components and pharmaceuticals to zero if the US reciprocated. However, no agreement was reached after 5 rounds of negotiations. The US was frustrated with New Delhi's reluctance to compromise on key issues such as expanding its markets for dairy and agricultural goods. Later on, Trump started threatening India with further tariffs over its oil purchases from Russia. Separately, India has challenged high US tariffs on some copper imports as well at the World Trade Organization, WTO. The Trump administration slapped 50% tariffs on global imports of semi-finished copper items such as pipes, wires, rods, sheets and tubes early last month. India told the WTO that US duties were safeguard measures and not notified by Washington as per the Geneva-based trade body's rules. In a notification to the trade body, New Delhi said India looks forward to receiving a prompt reply to this request from the United States and to setting a mutually convenient date and venue for the above-mentioned consultations. And there's more on this from our correspondent Susan, who sent us this report from New York.
On Wednesday, President Trump once again blasted India over what he called tremendous tariffs, citing Harley Davidson motorcycles as an example, while saying he gets along well with India. He also said that U.S. goods face duties as high as 200%, while Indian products enter American markets with few barriers. Trump argued Harley was forced to open a plant in India to avoid those tariffs. His comments come just days after a federal appeals court ruled that most of his emergency-based tariffs on countries like China, Canada, and Mexico were illegal, saying the law doesn't authorize a president to impose duties. The White House insists the tariffs remain in effect and vows to fight on. Meanwhile, Trump has already imposed reciprocal 25% tariffs on Indian goods and an extra 25% levy on oil linked to Russia, putting overall duties to 50%, among the world's steepest. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World as well.